Half-fill a pot with cold water and heat it until it boils. Add salt and the bag of buckwheat, reduce heat, and cook for 15 minutes. If 15 minutes seems too long, try 10. Despite Igor's exceptional memory and talent, he sometimes forgets basic things. He stood in a tiny kitchen of a rented apartment he shared with 3 unreliable neighbors and questioned if he followed the recipe accurately. Cooking buckwheat. Igor was preparing for a job interview as a junior manager at a cellular communication and electronics salon. He cooked buckwheat with 2 boiled eggs for a healthy breakfast. It takes about 4 minutes to boil the eggs properly. Igor thought about adding butter to the porridge, but decided not to due to the high price of butter and concerns about cholesterol. He wasn't entirely certain, but after a big breakfast, he picked out his best clothes from the closet, ironed them well, and dressed to head outside smelling the fresh spring air. April was warm this year, and the atmosphere filled him with a strong sense of confidence that everything would go well. The location he hoped to work at was situated at the top of the central city avenue called Karl Marx. He took about 15 minutes to walk to the avenue and then another 15 minutes to reach his destination. Still left the house an hour and a half earlier than he should have, and there were several reasons for that. First of all, he hated to be late, and secondly, he would have woken up a little more, and one of his neighbors would wake up on dry alkagi debauchery or something else would wrinkle his clothes, and he would not be hired for sure, and besides, he had not been able to walk with the day in the sunny streets without hurrying anywhere, and although he planned a measured leisurely walk in less than half an hour, he was standing at the doors of the salons which he planned to settle on the windows hung posters with different smiling people with offers of various tariffs. People were offering various mobile plant options and deals with smiles. Igor was nervous about entering since this was the 4th job he had applied for and with no success yet. After each interview, the interviewer promised to message him the results, but they never did. They were surprised to find out his old phone model did not support the messaging app. Despite their promises to call him back, they never did. His sneakers were too worn out to look decent, and his best clothes were not any better, but just the least worn. After standing like that for another 5 minutes, he gave up doubts and, as it often happened in his life, mentally spat on everything and moved forward. "Good afternoon, can I help you?" A smiling girl appeared next to him at the entrance just a second after he entered. A little embarrassed at first, he quickly gathered his thoughts and blurted out, "Hello, I'm here for an interview with." "I have a meeting at 11, but I arrived a bit early." The woman paused, checked the well-known brand electronic clock displaying 10 a.m., and gave me a surprised glance stating that's very early. Okay, he waited for 5 minutes and then sat at a small table in a small office, waiting for an employee of the salon. Igor, a short and precise man wearing an orange and black branded t-shirt, entered the room, apparently a senior or a manager. "Good day," he greeted and sat down across from him. It was evident that Igor felt uncomfortable in his tight t-shirt. The attire he wore caused discomfort as it was too tight and restricted his movements. He had to constantly keep his belly pulled in. Despite this, he grinned widely. "I'd arrived earlier than expected, finding it foolish to stand in the street. I disliked being late." He adjusted his t-shirt once more under the table and moved the badge around his neck to ensure that Igor could identify him as the manager. The company promised Igor a solid salary in exchange for good sales performance. Igor was given a brief overview of the upcoming work, but only understood it superficially. To calculate his salary in the long term, he needs to track his sales performance. Meanwhile, a person in a small t-shirt continued talking to us about the regular corporate training system. During training, if we choose Igor as our candidate, we will add him to a group where training materials are shared daily. In this world behavior model for a successful interview, but Igor her existence, he didn't guess I interrupted the interviewer on a half of a word, having decided to speak about everything directly and openly today, and I into any group I won't be able to get put on a table before myself the old cell phone, which in informal conversation called just a small lamp. To his surprise, the person in a closed shirt didn't raise the eyebrows, and on the contrary asked about white, and as if itself not him, I wondered, and as you will study at a certification, Igor, in reply, only reaped. Thin shoulders, tell me about where I was born and grew up. I was born here and was a student at orphanage number 33. At 18, I joined the army, but didn't like it because we had to fight too often and the food was worse. Stanislav Andreevich smiled briefly and went back to work. I looked for a job for a long time but couldn't find one. Eventually, I became a driver carrying different goods for a forwarding agent. Sometimes I collected weights and unloaded them in shops for the agent for some reason. I'm ashamed of my last project because I worked on it for so long and now I'm tired. I feel like I can't do anything else and I don't need to talk anymore. During the pause in our conversation, Igor must have realized that in interviews the other person usually talks first. Since he had nothing else to say, he just added that black readers can find Lermontovsky's books at the library. Stanislav Andreevich didn't say anything and seemed to be lost in thought. For a moment, he forgot about his difficult decision-making process. T-shirt, I stopped waiting. You know I'm expecting you at 8:30 tomorrow and to come an hour early. There's no new position. Igor enjoyed the first stage because at the end of the day, his body wasn't aching from muscular pains, and because he now had a lunch break. It was an unusual experience for him since he didn't have to quickly grab a meal in the shivering gazelle's lounge. Usually, he worked alongside 3 other individuals, but now there were only 2 senior employees. On his first day, he received a branded key-shirt identical to Stanislav Andreevich's, with the exception of the size, and an honorable badge adorned with a signature. On his first day, he received a branded key-shirt identical to Stanislav Andreevich's, with the exception of the size, and an honorable badge adorned with a signature. On his first day, he received a branded key-shirt identical to Stanislav Andreevich's, with the exception of the size, and an honorable badge adorned with a signature. As a trainee, his day began with a half-day now. A parting word from the managing director who was presented to him by the excellent man, and later from the sentry, but put out from his workmate Nikita about that what him, that our problem clients what he has to be cunning that something wasn't pleasant to be pushed a formulation of a task to him at all. But he decided not to teach the senior, and also about that as their workmates of laziness go the fitting trousers, Nikita wasn't pleasant to him from the word absolutely of one client as a rule came salon. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, Igor could decline Nikita and try out a new profession. He needed to undergo a 3-week training during which he would receive corporate group training, undergo certification, and once he passes, replace his trainee badge with a personal photo and signature provided by the junior manager. This would allow him to be trained. To Igor, Stanislav Andreevich seemed like a saint for allowing him to use one of the phone display windows in the salon territory. Nikita helped Igor choose a great phone with a large battery and memory, as well as a high-quality screen. The phone became Igor's go-to resource for learning as he considered it a ticket to a new world of information, and he absorbed everything he learned every day. He tried to put it into practice daily, and his 3 weeks of training flew by effortlessly. It was discovered that he could communicate effectively with salon clients. He demonstrated a good understanding of the company's products and pricing, achieving great results. However, he often forgot to take lunch breaks and had difficulty remembering which key opened the entrance door in the dining room. Despite this, he was sharp and focused when it came to work-related matters. Listen to Gorik. There's a certification exam tomorrow. I have already sent my recommendations for you, so it's a mere formality. There is no need to worry about tests. You are in good shape. I'm here to motivate you, Stanislav Andreevich said, giving him a pat on the back. Igor counted his money as Stanislav Andreevich looked on. All of your sales were rounded, Igor said, handing the correct amount over to Stanislav. I wrote it down myself. It's possible that I could pay you the full amount tomorrow, but I'm sure that we will issue you a statement. You will need to fill out new sales for yourself. Perhaps these words lodged quietly in his mind, taking a grain of strong nervousness that pursued him all day. He felt tomorrow he would have a test, though he knew all the training material. Gloomy thoughts of his progress pursued him to the most. After the store closed, the owner prepared the salon for shutdown. He took an educational smartphone from the shelf and put it in his pocket, deciding to spend the whole night reviewing the material he studied. He was confident that he could return the phone back in its place in the morning. His goal was to pass the upcoming exam and possibly even earn a promotion. Once the store closed, he went straight home. On the way, he stopped at a nearby supermarket and then went to the grocery store. Tomorrow is an important day for Igor, so he decided to purchase a shirt and a nutritious breakfast. Later that evening, he returned home to Karl Marx Boulevard, upset that the store did not have the shirt he wanted. He determined that he needed at least 3 similar shirts before returning to the store. Despite this setback, he was able to buy plenty of good food and had 3 spare bills to add to his upcoming salary. It was a sunny day and he felt less nervous as he stopped at the intersection. He was lost in thought when he heard a familiar sound coming from an omelet yard on his right. There were not many pedestrians on the street and few cars passed due to the heat of the work week. So he stood and listened. He heard the sound again and realized it was someone's heart beating fast. It seemed like a girl who was having trouble calming down. After about a minute, he was sure. As he'd arrived, he struggled with his conscience. He looked around and tightened the straps of his backpack, which was filled with groceries. He lit up his smartphone screen to light up the road and poorly glanced at the white screen. Igor slowly walked towards one of the courtyards on the avenue, holding his phone in one hand. 3 figures stood stiffly opposite him, dressed formally. Although there were 4 silhouettes, the 4th one was not illuminated by the smartphone light. I lay on the ground and cried quietly. I wondered if mobile phones could still surprise someone in the 21st century. Nevertheless, his simple trick worked, and the figures on the opposite screen monitored his movements. In the evening, he decided it would be best to start with a simple greeting. He didn't know why he came to this yard, but if he had, he needed to get closer. He had to avoid getting too close and maintain the distance between him and the dark figures, which was about 5 more steps, but he could already see the entire group of 3 young people wearing dark clothes. He estimated that they were around his age and not older than 25. He couldn't make out their faces clearly due to the lack of light and smog, but saw only one of them from under a mask. The person had a red beard. "You have red hair," he said, taking a step towards him. "I decided to call you Grief." The group was talking, most likely with the girl who lay between them on the ground. She had injured her knee. Were confused and periodically at her pulled-out verses of sobbing, "Hey, a lamp, I will repeat you, Cho." One more short step towards was secured, and really he thought looking in the field with horror and hopes, and female eyes of what I was secured a hard course of life here, taught Igor to simple knowledge. If you fight in private, the chance of a victory is always, but when beat 3 times and moreover, and from different sides, very few people can stand. He couldn't, besides they obviously more largely him seen one he saw in a hand a stone so far, he reflected at a meeting to him moved already all 3. He only had a chance if he could somehow outsmart them. Also, tonight I heard that some kids may be passing by, so I'll go and see. And just now, by good luck, I found $33 in my pocket from the children's home. I thought, I can share this good luck with the kids and then we can all go our separate ways in peace. I'll invite the little girl at the cinema with me. Continuing to admire my phone, I reached into my right pocket and pulled out a red bill, which I handed over to the guys. He solved it more simply, so there is now a chance of not losing a lot of money. It's big. He never had approval and it cost him to grow up. Obviously, the crowd forgot about the girl on the earth and moved more surely in his direction. At our children's home, such beautiful money pays attention. You drew them in next. Drinks will be carried in one organization. There are 3 vacancies for us children, and 3 people in medical masks approached closer. Red was still ahead on several steps. Meanwhile, at the fact that I stood behind him holding a brick. We went around a semicircle and arrived at our destination. He needed a lamp and said he had changed it for the brick. The man with the brick had a hoarse voice, but I replaced horse with mine. He threw the brick onto the hand and then we all began together. Nay got this minute of he hated even more than them what for the sake of decided to shine with phone knew that nothing good that isn't necessary to wait as can't get out to change not mine but on same will throw he pushed a hand in a pocket, also pulled out one more note on hands men. 10 horse wasn't appeased where 10,000 your small lamp cost 50,000 not less if quickly order over a hand with phone and to strike horse with which about it was pushed forward and to take to the heels I precisely will escape. but that if they for me nirvana that to return to the girl isn't present, such definitely bull stupid, and only this way will jerk. And it is necessary to arrive at has to know whistle he lamps you deal red, pointed a finger to him on a breast, where from under a jacket was beaten out forgotten a badge with an inscription. The trainee all further occurred quicker than Igor managed to understand something he ought to share. Seconds after I looked down, I saw a person being attacked with a brick. The attacker hit the person on their right side, causing them to lose balance. Someone else continued to beat them while they were down. I quickly picked up my phone and checked on the person who was lying on the ground. They instinctively covered their head as they were showered with blows. Their legs turned red as the attacker jumped on their back and emptied the contents of their backpack, turning it into a very nutritious and tasty porridge. The person's boot was protected by shaky hands but still got hit in the face. Shortly after, they lost consciousness. When they woke up, they had terrible body pains, particularly on the right side, and a terrible thirst. They couldn't tell if their lids were injured, and their right eye wouldn't open. The left eye was half closed and covered in blood. They tried to move, but it was in vain, and they felt a sharp pain. They lost consciousness again. When they woke up next, they were not as sick, even though their right eye still couldn't open and one leg was weak. They saw words burning from the lamp's luminescence, and it seemed that they were lying in a bed. Very quietly, you were to twitch the left eye. He saw that over him the nurse I was inclined where my girl with the father brought text 3 of regional hospital to you that it is necessary already processed the test, and so far to you early still that to him was early, he didn't hear from risen more. After weakness struck him again, Igor left the hospital. In 3 weeks, at the very least, his right eye opened, but his whole body was covered with fresh scars. 2 of his teeth were not enough, and his nose was broken. The doctor said it was a big miracle that nothing else broke, and it is to his credit. He attributed his difficult childhood to some advantages he gained at educational institution number 33 for medical sisters. He learned that he was brought to the hospital by an elderly man accompanied by a young companion. They left him in resuscitation treatment and paid beforehand, leaving behind all of his personal belongings, including a jacket. He concluded that they must remain in the pockets of his 3 new acquaintances. First, he decided to go to the salon to talk with Stanislav Andreevich. Good afternoon. How can I help you? He was met by a little confused but perfectly polite guy on whom the badge flaunted. The junior manager, Stanislav Andreevich, printed what I left him in about 15 minutes. He tirelessly corrected his shirt and looked at me with an ill-concealed feeling of alarm. He asked, "Why did you take away the phone, Igor?" I replied, "I didn't take it away for business. I took it in the morning and wanted to return it to its place." My mood was disgusting, but looking into the eyes of this kind person, I somehow felt ashamed. I will work for him, Stanislav Andreevich. There is no context to the original text provided. Here is an example of an improved text in American English adhering to the given set of principles. Less than people can live better when they are less scared and don't have to worry about doing too much. We closed a job opening, and he nodded. There was a party with great music, and Jim was there. Also, everything is already taken care of for you. We paid for the application on the second day, and we were going to write. You looked at your phone, and then a man and a girl came. You asked about the phone, paid, and left. He was quiet for a moment before he said, "Go home. Igor will have a job opening soon. We will call you. The best thing to do now is to think about it and leave without saying goodbye. There is no salon near the house greater than. He ignored the 3 black marks on the landing and walked gloomily upstairs. After clicking the lock on the entrance door, he entered a small dwelling. He had 2 things on his mind: how to deal with what happened to him and who his benefactor is. In the kitchen, he greeted Igor, a 50-year-old man, and a 25-year-old girl. 2 more men in black suits, who looked uninterested, were also present. The girl greeted him with a smile and a cheerful hi in the crowded kitchen. Igor, not sure what it meant, looked around at the audience. The 50-year-old man spoke slowly and calmly, rising from the table to address the director of the cellular shop who had sent him home. Before finishing his question, he pulled a card from his jacket that read trainee to register his blood. The address of salon, may I introduce myself, Leonov of Maxim Zvitolevich, the CEO of group of construction companies. He gave him the right hand, and Harry stiffened as driven. First of all, we are very grateful to you for rescue of the daughter of the father. But, and in the second, he made a short pause. I hope your new employer, such brave hearts and team are precisely necessary to meet Igor's heart. Without restraint was hammered thoughts in the head began to spin a look. Also the last that he sorted was from you, the guy now. Seems everything will be good.